convincing women that men are stupid was one of the ways that they manipulated us in terms of, weaponizing confidence, blah, blah, blah. But one of the bigger ways that I didn't even realize until just recently is by us not having a clue how calculated they are and how they know what they're doing. And even if they are dumb as rocks, like just boom, nothing there, they think of like an animal, right? Like, ooh, if he's a hobosexual especially, he's like, I need housing. I need a place to take a dump, wash my clothes, all that stuff, sleep. So this is survival, man. And they're like, they know what they're doing. And the reason that I want to talk about this is because me and one of my mutuals, we did a podcast the other day for Risk. I wrote this story in this book. I told this story like 9 years ago on the Risk podcast. But Ms. Aisha came on the podcast for us to listen to me telling this story from 9 years ago. Listen to it again and see if we had some thoughts. And also, she is a therapist and a survivor and a college professor, and she knows a lot about domestic violence and their tactics. And she worked with abusers too, so she knows her stuff. And one of the things that she made me realize, and I had never realized until talking to her, I swear I learned something new every day about how I just fell for this. And part of it was a lot of stuff personal to me, but a lot of it was me not knowing that this is what they do, which is one of the reasons why I talk about this. And so I thought, because he's not smart, he's just like, I couldn't even hardly hold a conversation with this man. So after a while, I was pretty bored because at first it was exciting and all that stuff because I had the butterflies, which is actually my body being like, no, right? But after I realized that we really don't have anything in depth to talk about, he's fun, exciting. He rode the rails for 9 years on like literal hobo. Okay, like when I say hobosexual, I mean like he showed up with a backpack and a banjo, cartoonishly hobo. But I realized pretty quickly, like, God, okay, well, I got good thing I have like close friendships. So I just kind of was, just fell into this thing. It was just supposed to be like a friendship, then maybe a friendship with, not even friendship, coworkers who, end up maybe hooking up or what, I don't know. Like, I don't even know what I thought, but I knew this man from the beginning was not somebody that I was really compatible with. And yet I just kept, talking myself into it more and more. And one of the things that thinking that realizing especially that he's really not very smart is underestimating him. Okay. So let me tell you two things that I can think of right now that I underestimated this man on. Oh, look, he's dreaming. Look, that's Pete. One is that I thought because he is, like a lot of men, doesn't really plan for much, didn't seem to really have his life together, didn't have a bank account, didn't even have a driver's license. Of course, I learned later on that's because he owed child support and was running from the law. So everything was under the table. I did, duh, Melanie, of course. Of course. And I was just like, oh, the poor baby boy doesn't know how to. So I became his mom, right? So it never occurred to me that even though he doesn't seem to plan his own life out very well, when it comes to planning how to terrorize you, oh, he's got a plan. He's got a plan. He is 10 steps ahead. The same way that as a woman, I feel like I'm constantly many, many, many steps ahead of all the men in my life, right? Unless they are really learning how to do all what we do. Sew the social fabric and all that stuff. Do the logistics and all the emotional labor, the cognitive labor, the mental labor, all that stuff that women are just taught to do, right out of the gate. If we're not taught, we learn through observation or learn by having to do it because no one's going to do it for us. And so I just assume that, anything like that, he's just too dumb to think of some master plan. Oh, he had a plan. He had a plan. He always was so many steps ahead of me. He stole all of my art, right? All my photos, 10 years of SIM cards, all my photos that I used for my comedy shows, that I used for my travel writing, for everything that also were just super personal to me, right? 10 years. That was this final act, right? This final life when I thought I was gone. And I literally texted me, hope you don't need these. Oh, he always had one thing more than I always underestimated him, right? Never occurred to me he'd be taking photos of me while I'm giving him my right? Because like who would do that? First of all, also I would never do that. So it never occurred to me that another person would do that, which is like most of the things that I've learned the hard way through trauma is because I never thought somebody would do that and then use it to and then threaten you with putting it on the internet when you say you want to break up. And it never occurred to me to take a photo of someone's genitalia while they're asleep and then use it as their profile photo on Twitter either. I never thought any, but silly me, But I remember when I woke up to feeling him move my underwear to take this photo, I didn't know that's what he was doing. I was like, what's he doing back there? But I was like, I was scared of him at this point. So I was like, all right, well, I mean, what could he really be doing? Taking a photo and then using it as his profile. Man, this man was always so many steps ahead of me. And here I am thinking he's dumb. I don't care how, emotionally dumb they are and how, intellectually dumb they are. That doesn't mean that they aren't sharp as a knife when it comes to preying on someone. Right? And so I think a lot of women who end up dating down, right? Who just settle for dudes and right? Because, he's like affectionate and loving and whatever, and they overlook things because please do not assume that you are smarter than any of these men. Okay? You might be in a lot of ways, but being a predator doesn't require emotional intelligence or, test scores, degrees. It is a feeling. It is them reading you. They read you so well. On some level, they kind of know you better than you know yourself in terms of your weaknesses. And Miss Aisha pointed that out. And man, she was so right. They not only have a plan in terms of collecting things they can use against you, the same way cult leaders do, right? But also playing the long game, the slow, long game. And so I had this huge realization when we were discussing how we became official on Facebook, and he just posted when we we're together, but he posted on Facebook in a relationship with Melanie Hamlin. And it wasn't until and by the way, this podcast is probably going to come out in a few months. I can't wait to share it with y'all. But she was the one who made me realize that men understand how social media works for women and how women, there's so much of our lives, how we are judged, how we see each other, what we do to each other. It is heavily influenced by social media, right? So he also knew that I'd never been in a relationship, really officially, at the age of 36. And as much as that had been intentional on my part, I still had a lot of shame around that, right? So for him to just do that, and then I'm like, oh no. I mean, I guess I have to, if I don't because I have tag requests, right? I don't let people tag, but I was like, if I don't accept this, if he sees, he's going to think I'm ashamed of him, right? And so I was like, all right, well, I guess we're telling everybody, because I really wasn't sure if I wanted to tell everybody. I was known as the person who had never dated anybody, and I knew intuitively this was really not going to go anywhere. I did not see myself with this person in the long term, even throughout the entire thing, even when I was so climatized and, made it, I always knew this man was not good for me. I always knew that on some level, but I just kept accepting it longer and longer. And the more I accepted it, the more tired I was. And the more tired I was, and the less my confidence started just going away. And I felt like a literal parasite was eating me and I had nothing left. It was like a vampire, right? And I just started to feel more and more dead inside. And then I'm like, my confidence and everything, now my nervous system is attached to these cycles of being on edge all the time and anger and then extracting and all these things. At the end of the day, I never really saw us staying together, so I really didn't want to announce this, right? Because I didn't want to deal with everybody being like, oh my God, wow, you're finally in a relationship. And then having to be like, okay, we broke up. I didn't want to deal with having to explain why this was so short-lived, because I knew I was eventually moving to LA. I didn't know how long I was going to stay in New Mexico. This third time I'd been back there. But because he tagged me and said we were in a relationship, I just went with it. And that is probably my most liked post of all time, except maybe when I literally got married. I am telling you, the way that women, especially, and I get it, but the way that the world, but especially women, will be like, oh my God! And this, like, the picture of the, like, I said yes, right? That, and like the photo of like the bump or whatever, the scan. What's that called? What do you call it? This is how child free I am. I forget what you call it. You know, the thing with the jelly. Or, you know, when your first picture with the baby, those photos blow up. Those statuses blow up. And he knew that. And so when I finally accepted that tag and that post went live that Melanie Hamlet is in a relationship. And literally, y'all, I would tell stories on podcasts, on stage. I was known as the forever single. The one person who never dated anybody, maybe like forked them in the back of a truck, right? Or forked a clown, right? That's one of my most famous stories, is literally forking a clown when I was staying in a clown house on couch surfing. Like, that's what I was known for. So everybody who always just was hoping that Melanie Hamlet would find love. Not like I had a huge, you know, fan base or whatever, but just all the people in high school, on Facebook, all the comedians in my life, all the storytellers in my life, anyone who I literally met in all my travels, because I talked so much about my life for a living, knew that I'd never been in love. So to see that, oh, look, it's finally, they were so happy for me, and I know why, and I get it. Men understand the social capital of that. Men understand how big those moments are. To announce a relationship or a pregnancy, a relationship status upgrade, men understand. And downgrade, right? Or divorce, they know that you get praised for one and shamed for the other. They know the stakes are so high for us, and I never realized that until Aisha told me that. God, I still underestimate these men all the time, still. And it's not necessarily them saying, I know, if I do this, and she puts it, it is just a knowing. And I've made this comparison before, but just the same way white people know of our power and privilege, we know we can throw a card, right, that will make us have the upper hand. We may not ever think, I know, I'm going to call, like, we may not think the thought, but we don't have to. It's a knowing, it's an understanding of swimming in white patriarchy. You know from what you've seen how this works. These men know exactly what they're doing when it comes to social media, and by withholding posting you. I'm not saying all all of them who are not posting you it means something. Because, you know, a lot of men don't post that much, right? And come to France, people don't even use a photo of themselves for their profile photos. It's like a leaf or a tree or something. Like, it's so, I can't find anyone here. They're very private, and I've actually become more private from being here because I'm like, wow, there's a lot of value to this. But when they know, especially if they're trying to trap you, they know that the humiliation and the shame that will come from society, from all your friends, from women, from men, from everybody, when your relationship online changes, they know that. Don't think they don't know that. Please don't think they don't know that, because him changing going public with our relationship status, honestly, was what made me date him. I'm not saying I wouldn't have dated him otherwise, but I probably would have kind of kept it a little more secret. But the pressure, God, the humility, like, I literally kept thinking, because people were so happy for me. Now, it would be hard for any woman, but when you are known as a storyteller who talks about never being, like, I didn't even talk about I've never been in love. I just didn't talk about it because the only time I talked about men was like, I'd just be like, yeah, I have like hate fucks, one night stands, whatever. But it was never in like I'd never really dated anyone long term. I'd definitely never been married, never even lived with a man, none of it. So the pressure of having an audience watching us, I had no idea how much that was motivating a lot of my, okay, I guess I'll just go along with this until I move. And then the move, whenever I finally, because I was transitioning from New York to LA, whenever that, I didn't know how long this moment of like, I thought I was gonna be in Taos to write a book. I thought I had a book proposal out with my agent. I had blurbs. I thought it was all good to go and I would be there to write my book, and then it didn't sell. And that is the moment that I ended up, in that moment of one of my biggest disappointments career-wise, and my creative life is the most important part of my life and always has been. Well, maybe not the most important now, like community and friendships is, because I think it's like not good to have that be, but like it has never been, like romantic relationships have never taken priority over that, except for that period of time I was with him. And when that book proposal didn't sell, and then a friend of mine died within 2 days of each other, that is when, I've made a video about this recently, that is when these two very destabilizing things made me just look at him in a different light. He came in and I said, oh wow, he's a different person than I thought. And I convinced myself it wasn't such a bad idea. What's the worst that can happen? Famous last words, right? And I'm also not somebody who likes to lie to my audience. You know what I mean? I'll just like maybe say nothing at all until like I'm on the other. I don't like to talk about a story I'm in the middle of, right? I don't think it's healthy. And as a storyteller, I really don't think it's healthy. So I usually don't tell personal stories in general until I'm on the other side of a hard moment. So this was the thing where like in the beginning I was like, yeah, and I liked being able to hold hands with someone. Like this guy, I was 36 years old, y'all, okay? Do you know how many weddings I've been to? Do you know how many baby showers I've been to? I was 36 years old and had never shared a hotel room with a dude I was dating, because I was never really dating. I was just like hooking up or doing like 4B kind of lifestyle. So to go to an amusement park and ride a roller coaster with a man and, split an ice cream with him and share a hotel room, even though it was like a nasty hotel room and there was like, cigarette burns on the mattress and like a punching hole, like a hole punch through the wall. It was like, whatever. Well, I was on a budget. Right? I'm supporting me and the hobo. And I'm working at a pizza place in Taos. But I felt like I was finally had gone through like a rite of passage. Oh, this is what it means to like date somebody and have a boyfriend and do boyfriend, girlfriend things together. You go on trips together, even though I paid for all the gas and like literally everything. Yeah, he didn't pay rent. He paid for nothing because he had to buy cigarettes and Wayne and other dumb stuff, because I also didn't know about financial abuse back then either. Oh, poor guy can't cash his paychecks. Okay, he can sign them over to me and then I'll deposit my account and then I'll give him cash. Like that was not a red flag to me, because I was like, oh, he just can't get a bank account because he doesn't have a driver's license. It didn't occur to me he doesn't have a driver's license because he doesn't want one. All those trips to Social Security office and all these places, me trying to help him get, he was sabotaging those because he didn't want to be found. He probably owed thousands in child support and also used his daughter to hook me. So with all these daddy issues, and he's got a daughter in California that he just wants to see so bad. Look at the photos, and she looked a lot like him. But now I understand there's a reason why he hadn't seen her in years, because he wasn't paying. And his ex probably, who knows? He probably has a restraining order. Who knows? The line of bodies I learned about later on of women he had hurt. And so I have all these factors. None of these things, until Aisha talked me through this, I did not understand how much of this was calculated. How the schmuicide threats. I've been talking about that for a while, but I didn't realize just how common that was. Like, I'm gonna start talking about that more. The back injury. As soon as I mentioned, he probably made that up, and I was like, exactly, he made it up. I'm sure that happens all the time, right? Calculated, man, calculated. They are so calculated. If they put that time and energy into actually loving somebody instead of like harming and terrorizing someone, imagine what would happen. But the social media aspect, I can't, because I don't like to lie about what's happening, right? It's like I can't tell a story it goes against like my code, but also as a storyteller, right? So I just didn't say anything. At first you see photos of me all over the place, and then you just start seeing less and less, and then nothing, right? Because I was like, I'm not going to post happy stuff because I'm not happy. I'll just post nothing at all, because I also don't feel comfortable being like, help. All right. And so on my day, I'm on the day that I left him, and I'm on my way out of town, and I have, there's a whole big dramatic story around that. And Annie and I got my photos back through this crazy story that will take me 10 minutes to tell, because it is on like Oscar worthy performance I did to trick him into getting those photos back. When I got those photos, I was so mad. It was like he'd stolen my baby, right? You steal my art, you can grape me, almost drive me off a cliff. You can but you take my art. Now you really made me mad. So I posted a photo on Facebook, me holding up this Ziploc bag because of an ADHD. Of course, I don't have something professional. I have like a doom bag for my most important things in my life. Ziploc bag full of 10 years of SIM card, and was like, hey, everybody, I've been in an abusive relationship. He stole all this. I just was like, blah, right? It took me leaving him and being so angry that he took my art for me to admit to Facebook, a place where I told so many stories about my life, very personal stories, for me to admit to anyone on Facebook what was actually happening in that relationship. It took me almost dying. It took me getting violently raped, and not so violently raped many times, almost getting my tonsils removed because my body was freaking out from the stress of this so much that I developed this thing in my throat where I couldn't swallow. I ended up in the ER because I couldn't even drink water. I had to go in an IV because my body was so stressed. I broke out in hives when I was around this man. I felt like I was literally dying, okay? And I just couldn't post anything about it. I was like, I can't say anything at all until I know I'm ready, because I knew that once I posted it, I had to be ready to leave. I had to never talk to this man again because the internet would hold me accountable for it, right? And just like with smoking, I did not quit smoking until I was ready. And so I was able to quit on the first time. I was smoking 2 packs of Doral Light 100s a day. I had, I broke a rib. No, sorry, I cracked a rib from coughing, right? And then ended up getting a job working in a cafeteria in Yellowstone, making $4.25 an hour. And I couldn't hike because I was smoking all the time. And that's when I finally put that patch on. But it sat in my closet for months because I knew I couldn't fully commit until I was ready. I was convinced I don't want this anymore. And so that's what I did with this thing too. And there's other reasons too. There's a lot of reasons why I didn't. So it took all of that of seeing the harm done to me, all the people who love me by proxy, of literally almost dying, of losing myself so much that I could barely recognize myself towards the end, for me to finally tell social media, we're done. You will never see photos of us again, kind of thing. Okay, so I know that the stakes, or like for me, I might be a more extreme case, right? Than say a woman who, has been in several relationships or whatever. But I am telling you, it is a huge price. There's huge stakes on social media of posting in a relationship, of posting your partner, your boyfriend, and they hold that over your head. They know. The predatory ones will utilize social media to bully you. And I don't mean after you break up and posting your photo of your vulva as their profile photo on Twitter. I'm not, that's not what I'm talking about. As Aisha pointed out, they will bully you into getting into a relationship, and they will control you through social media and your image on social media, because our image on social media is so important to us because the consequences are so high. Damn, that man is dumb as rocks, but smart as hell as a predator. Holy cow, I had no idea. I will probably continue to learn more and more and understand, but I learned so much in that conversation with Aisha. So if you're not following her, I hope you do. I have learned so much just from following her, but also from speaking with her offline. We did a live together on my Patreon. That was really great. If you join Patreon, you can see all my lives. You can go back and watch any of them. That was like 2 lives ago, I think. She is brilliant, and she knows what it's like to be in a relationship like this too. So she speaks from personal experience as well. Holy cow. I'm still digesting this conversation we had the other night. It was like 2 hours. It's going to be edited down for the podcast. But anyway, never underestimate these men. Okay? They are not stupid. They're not stupid. I don't care. They are not stupid. And sometimes, like, the dumber they are, the smarter they are in terms of preying on women, because it's survival for them. Be careful, y'all. And also, please forgive yourself for falling for this, because that's also a critical part. this helps me forgive myself, because that's always been the hardest part. I don't care about this dude. I don't even think about him anymore. This was like, what, I don't know, like 12, 13 years ago or something. I haven't forgiven him, but I don't care. I feel nothing. I love that for me. But forgiving myself and not being super mean and judgmental towards myself, I am still working on that. I'm in a much better place, but it's hard work. So if this helps you forgive yourself in any way whatsoever, then good. I hope it helps. Let me know if you want to, if you feel comfortable. Let me know in the comments. And like, if you want to share any of the ways that they tricked you, I would love to hear it. I learned so much from the comments, and we learn from each other. Thanks for listening, y'all. Thank you, Patreon people. As always, you are why I'm able to do this, because I can't rely on the algorithms to pay my bills. So thank you. Y'all are keeping the lights on. For anyone else who can't afford that or just not interested, liking, comment, sharing, all that stuff, it does help. And hit the notification buttons, because apparently people are getting unsubscribed and not getting notifications without them realizing. So make sure you're subscribed. Hit the notification button. Leave long, type, longer messages or whatever, comments. All that stuff helps. A special shout out to Kimberly and Adrian over on Venmo. Wow, thank you. I never expect anything like that from people, but I always appreciate it. Thank y'all so much. Let me know if you heard that comment song, and follow Ms. Aisha on all social media, and I'll let you know when the Risk podcast comes out. Et voila! Sleeping Mo's comment song. Look at that sweet baby sleeping comment song. Palette cleanser comment song. Mo's is literally sleeping next to me right now as I sing the Sleeping Mo's comment song. Every time I try to get him twitching, he wakes up usually and looks at me like, bitch, what the hell are you doing? I'm trying to sleep here. Oh, there we go. Comment song. Look at the little twitching Mo's. This is hard stuff to talk about, so I gotta help your nervous system with the therapy dog Mo. Look at this. Such a king baby. Sleeping in the comment song. Oh, look, he's going. Look at the toes. Sleeping, Mo's comment song. Thanks for listening to this story. Let me know if you heard the Sleeping Mo's comment song. Sleepy Mo's comment song. Et voilà.